Before you add color to your next drawing project, I'm going to ask you to take a minute to experiment with a few coloring techniques with oil pastel. I know that you already know how to color, but hopefully these techniques are going to add a little something new and interesting to your work. The first thing you usually need to do when you take an oil pastel out of the box is you often need to clean it off. So make sure that you have a scrap paper when you're working so that you can clean off any colors that you don't need before you start. The first frame at the top of the worksheet says blending. Blending is basically just mixing two or more colors together. You can use this technique to create new colors, or right now what I'm working on is called a gradient. I'm going to be working to blend yellow, orange, and red together so that they gradually change from one color to the other. This tends to work best with colors that are next to each other on the color wheel, the colors that are called analogous. So yellow plus red makes orange, so those three colors are going to blend really nicely. You always want to start with a light layer of each color. It gets to a point where they become difficult to blend, so I put down a light layer of yellow, a light layer of red, a light layer of orange, and now I'm going to use the lightest color, which is yellow, and color all the way across all three colors and see if I can get them to blend nicely together. It may reach a point where just coloring isn't doing the blending that you want it to, so it may be helpful to grab a paper towel and use a paper towel to help you with your blending. The next technique is called sgraffito, and it's really just a form of scraping through two layers of color. It usually works best if you put down a light layer of color first and color a darker layer over the top. And then I'm going to use a scratch pen to scratch through the first layer to reveal a texture underneath. Now the scratch pens have a very pointy tip and a sort of wider side. So you can try scratching with the tip to make a really skinny line or scratching with the side of the pen to make a wider line. This is a great way to add texture to, if you're drawing an animal and you want to make the fur look more fuzzy, you could use the sgraffito technique maybe to add texture to the fur. The next box is called stippling, and stippling is just making little tiny dots of color. And so instead of just coloring grass one solid color green, I'm using stippling here to build up dots of light green, dark green, and yellow, and then it's going to give me a grassy area that has a little bit more depth to it. The next box is called scumbling. Scumbling is really fun because it's just another form of scribbling, but it's an interesting way to build up texture. This could be great again if you're drawing an animal and you're trying to make the fur look fuzzy, or maybe add texture to a carpet or someone's hair. Any of those items would be great with the addition of scumbling. The next box is for cross hatching, but before you can do the cross part, you have to start with the hatching. So hatching is just little directional lines. They can be used to add texture again, or they can be used to change the value of a color. When lines are closer together, they make the color look darker or more intense, and when lines are farther apart, like on the left side, they make the color look a little bit lighter. Once you have some hatching down, you can go in the other direction, and now it's called cross hatching. Next, we're moving on to the baby oil technique. Since oil pastels have oil in them, when you use baby oil, it will dissolve some of the color, and it's another way that you can blend your colors together. So when you're ready for this, take a little cup you just need a few drops of baby oil, and you're going to use a Q-tip to blend your colors and see what effect you can get. Something else that's worth trying with the baby oil is just drawing a shape like the circle and using the baby oil to pull some of the color from the outside of the circle in towards the center. And it's just one way that you can start to add volume to your shape. If it's dark on the outside and lighter on the inside, it's going to look a little bit more like a form than just a flat shape. The last box is watercolor wash. If you just put down some lines or shapes or textures with your oil pastels and run over them with watercolors, the water resists oil, so the watercolor is not going to stick to the oil pastels, and you can get some more interesting effects this way. So that's basically it. I'm hoping that the next time you color with oil pastels, you'll use a few of these techniques to make your coloring just a little bit more interesting.